Firstly, thank you for looking in on this video. I'm really here today to talk about a piece of creative work which I would like to, I think it's called the Island of Paradise Lost. It's a story which has started off really with some pictures I created. So rather than starting a story with the actual words, I thought I'd start it with the pictures. The pictures are inspired by a recent trip to the Pacific. But interestingly enough, the story isn't based in the Pacific, it's based somewhere between the Azores and the Caribbean. It's set in the 1580s, just after the Armada, and involves a captain called Adam Faulkner and his crew, basically going off in search of treasure, going off in search of gold, because Elizabeth I's ministers are interested in getting more wealth because they're bankrupt. So the first picture really is shows the crew wrecked on this island which has got incredibly high peaks that look volcanic, and palm trees, lovely sandy beach, and they're wondering, they've obviously achieved their objective, I think, of actually getting to this island, but how can they get off it in the future? The pictures, I hope you enjoy the pictures. They really show you mostly what's going on the island, and you really start to get an idea of why the island exists and what makes the island special, what makes it different. It's very much about creation. It's very much about maybe the beginnings of our universe, the beginnings of human life. It's very much about the story, very much a human story, because Adam Faulkner goes to the island and there's a lot of guys go with him, but really back in England there's a woman who features heavily in the story, and it also blends a little bit of a time slip, in the sense that we have Adam Faulkner in the late 1500s, and we have a lady called Evelyn Morningstar who is working at the Westmoreland Gazette in Cumbria in 2020. So it spans 400 and odd years, and it's fantastical. As well, I think the time it's been written has been a time when people have been almost like confined in their houses and confined in their gardens. So it's a bit of a celebration of a garden. It's also, I guess, a little bit of a celebration of a fantastical garden, a garden maybe where creation started. And would a garden that was created by somebody, would somebody wish to keep it? Would they keep a cenotaph of it? Would they keep that garden as is, you know, as a memorial? And what would they keep in that garden? If that garden was kept, what would what would people now experience if that garden had been kept for many, many years? Who would look after the garden? What things might be in the garden? What things have been said that might be kept in the garden? So once you've gone to the island, can you take things from the garden? I think that's one of the things that obviously is an aspect of the story. So it's partly a creative process. Can pictures create a story? I can tell you they probably can. Then once you start to create the story, you feel that you've got to actually do some more pictures. So it's a complex situation. My ideas have always been about getting the story down. I've been sometimes less concerned about the delicacy of description, or the literally painting the picture with the words. I think in this instance I've actually allowed the pictures to paint the picture and the words to give the story. So if you like adventure, you like a bit of romance, you like history, you like exotic, fantastical stories, you like something that's really stretches the imagination, I think you'll like this. So that's it really. Thank you for listening, and I hope you like the art or you like the stories. I hope it even maybe inspires some people to maybe take a picture or look at a picture and say, how can I write a story around that picture? Because I think that's quite an interesting way of approaching a story. You know, even now as I look at this, I look behind my friend Anil here who's taking the photography. I look at a statue. What is the story of that statue? I could write a story about that statue undoubtedly, even if it was only 200 words or 500 words. And that's what's happened with this. It's the pictures have ended up with a story, and now that story's being enlarged. So thank you. The Island of Paradise Lost. Mid-September 1588. Westminster Palace, 6 weeks after the attempted Spanish Armada invasion. Lord Burleigh folded the faded parchment that had been handed to him as he spoke with Walsingham, Chief Spy Master of Elizabeth I. The Spanish fleet had been driven into the North Sea, but there was still a fear it might attack coastal towns as it beat its way around Scotland and then back to Spain. Even in defeat, it had won a victory of striking fear into the population as well as leaving the Queen's treasury bereft of coin. England needed more gold to build a stronger navy that would deter any future aggressor, or it would be a question of when rather than if a second invasion might be launched. Walsingham spoke. There is no mention of damage done to the masts, spars, rigging or the sails of Drake's Revenge, yet somehow this parchment came from the Rosario, one of the Armada's greatest galleons, which I gather simply surrendered to him. Lord Burleigh spoke. Yes, this man rides his luck even when he's playing bowls. I understand he'd netted 55,000 gold ducats plus £35,000 from Pedro de Valdez's personal possessions, though admittedly Hawkins said he shared half with other crews and transferred 46 guns to the fleet. I think in truth he puts the greed for gold over the fate of the nation. In this instance the two imperatives happen to coincide, so he's talented enough to kill both with one stone and be cast as hero by some and villains by others. Walsingham replied, Indeed, you cannot underestimate this genius, his piratical instincts. He delivers by fair means or foul. This is what every nation requires at some point. Even in royalty there is prepared to turn a blind eye for the sake of the exchequer. Thankfully, he is not interested in seemingly worthless parchment when he has ducats or high-ranking Spanish noblemen to ransom back to their families. So basically this is the Tree of Life, and this, they don't know, is the end destination of Faulkner and his shipmates, but it is, it's the place that they end up at. There's quite a lot of things going on in this picture, obviously. It's not during the day actually, this shot is at moonlight, and so you get these heavy shadows, and you see the two kind of cenotaphs which have been left for almost like the male and female, which have we've seen the almost like those creation pictures. I produced the 2 creation pictures. There's still the absolute enormous tree. You know, you see the size of it by the 5 characters here, which are in the picture. There's this severed trunk of this other tree that basically was cut down by the Creator. And if this is a tree of life, this was a tree of death, really. Now this sword is enormous as well. You're probably thinking about this is probably 100 feet tall. You know, you've got this Tethys here again. You know, which is another almost like an aspect of the fertility of the island. You know, and actually this is an unusual feature of the whole island. Got a guardian in the background, you know, which you can barely see in the landscape, you know, and they're almost like sitting like a sleeping giant, you know. Obviously, the whole leaf system of the tree is fantastical. All different colours and all different, I guess, all different materials that these leaves are made out of, you know, because you can't really think of it that this as being an earthly garden. Now, is this ultimately the garden that kind of like was set up at the beginning of the universe and is left as a place by the Creator to commemorate, you know, that starting of the earth or the starting of the universe? I think that's really for the reader to exercise his own imagination, but it certainly could be. I think that's what that tree represents.